This is music, and this is a blessing in the skies.
Like bloated maggots they crawl, crawl as if to a dying god. Black of mask and black of cloak, carrying crows of blood they choke.
It's finally here, the first episode of my Axemaster themed mini-series on this channel, Off With Your Head. I will be going through all the Axemaster albums I have in my collection, and I will go through them song by song, so these will be longer and more in-depth videos. Originally, my plan was to shoot these videos in the summer of 2025 and then post them in the fall of 2025, August, September, October. But now, as I'm shooting this, we're in November 2025, and you will probably be watching them in December 2025. So they're a little bit delayed. First of all, my life and my job got in the way, and I'm happy just to have a job. And then I'm even lucky that I have a job I love, so I'm not complaining about that. Also, some opportunities presented themselves for me to include some really, really cool things in these videos, including actually the music you heard in the introduction, which is a snippet from a hitherto unreleased, brand spanking new Axemaster song called Murder of Crows, and it's a song from their upcoming album of Beasts and Plagues. How about that? You're really spoiled here. So I'll talk a little bit more about the new album a bit later in this video. Also, I have some behind the scenes insights from uh, Joe Sims, who plays the lead guitar in Axemaster, and also Christopher Michael, who plays the bass and does the vocals on Blessing in the Skies and was part of, the very early lineup of Axemaster. And I have some behind the scenes insights from him as well. So, uh, in the early days of this channel, one of the first videos I ever did was me talking about Blessing in the Skies. And my conclusion was that I didn't like it because I didn't like Christopher Michael's vocals. And I think I also had an issue with the production. Interestingly enough, there was one comment on that video saying something along the lines of, "Man, the vocals are my favorite part of this album." And I've also heard some other Axemaster songs now with Christopher Michael on vocals. And I've also heard the album he put out under the moniker of Ravage. And in both of those cases, I actually really liked the vocals. I got what he was going for artistically. And he's also told me about what he was aiming for artistically on Blessing in the Skies. So it was always in the cards that I would have to go back, revisit, reassess Blessing in the Skies, see if I've changed my mind about it. And that's actually what inspired this entire miniseries, Off With Your Head. So let's get down to business. Let's revisit Blessing in the Skies. It's their debut album. It's from 1987. They did put out some demos before that. And the original version looked like this. There are like different versions of it. The OG looks like this. Really cool cover artwork, I have to say. Dark, ominous, and it fits the tone of this album perfectly. Then there's a much more recent reissue, and that's this one right behind me, the Pure Steel reissue. And then there's also another reissue from 2005 or 2006, which is this one here that I have on CD. And this was actually a present from Christopher Michael. And it's even signed by the original lineup that plays on Blessing in the Sky. So that is really cool. So let's revisit this album It starts out with a track, and this is the version I'm going to be talking about, by the way. It starts out with a track called The Prophecy slash Golgotha. And if I'm looking down, it's because I'm looking at my notes. Full disclosure there. So it starts out with The Prophecy slash Golgotha. And The Prophecy is kind of like the introduction to the entire album. It kind of sets the tone. It's a dark, ominous spoken word piece. And it kind of has occult undertones. And it does set the tone perfectly for this album. The track proper, however, is Golgotha, and to my ears, it's a kind of a atmospheric sounding track. It kind of goes back and forth between quite simple but very effective clean guitar parts and then distorted heavy metal riffage, and this going back and forth just works really well. The drumming is very dynamic and it adds a further interesting layer to this song. Now, the main part of the song is slow, to be sure, but the bridge is a little bit more up tempo. And it has a rocking guitar solo and some very dynamic bass work in it as well. And this fast part has a bit of a new wave of British heavy metal vibe, to me at least. So maybe the Axemaster guys were inspired by the new wave of British heavy metal. I don't know. Um, so the instrumental side of things, great. It's a great, dark, ominous, intense song. But what about the vocals? Um, the vocals sound demented. They sound mad. You got low register snarls. You got animalistic growls. You got high pitched screams. There's one in the very beginning of Golgotha. And you got shouty but still melodic singing. And you know what? It clicks with me. The vocals work. I get it. I get what Christopher Michael is going for. The vocals work brilliantly in this song, especially in the chorus. So yeah, great song. It's a slow song for an opener, and they definitely ran a bit of a risk opening the album with a slow song, but it's dark and it's intense, and that's what makes it a great opener, in my opinion. Now, Christopher Michael has this to say about his vocals in Golgotha. He says, the vocals in Golgotha are a mix of subdued evil and anger, which I interpret today as the battle between good and evil. So, the next track is Blood of the Temple. Now, this one opens with a cool, kind of chugging heavy metal riff and again, dynamic drumming. You got like slow galloping drums and galloping bass underneath, kind of like another spoken word piece in the bridge. And that's followed by an insanely blistering guitar solo. And then the transition from the bridge to the end is really cool. Hard to describe, just really intense. You got to check it out. The end itself is also very, very intense in its own way. And intensity, I can spoil that right now. Intensity is the key word that describes this album. Not just this album, but the entire discography of full length albums by Axemaster, in my opinion. So, uh, you got interesting dynamics in the composition of Blood of the Temple, and you have, yeah, again, darkness and intensity to the song. What about the vocals? Well, they also sound demented and insane. They also sound more overtly angry, I would say. And there's a really, really cool vocal delivery in the chorus. And also, like in the song itself, there's a part where you got like vocals on top of the lead guitar, and it all just sounds like it's on the verge of collapsing into insanity, but it just manages to hold together this type of intensity. Now, Christopher Michael let me know that back in the early day, there were some people who thought that they were kind of a Christian band because they had like Christian themes in some of their songs, like Golgotha, and also in Blood of the Temple. And this is what Christopher Michael had to say about Blood of the Temple. Blood of the Temple even has a verse straight out of the Bible, which Joe Sims recites. And Golgotha is about the crucifixion of Christ. So they were not a Christian band, but they dealt with some of the, I guess, darker concepts from Christianity. It fits heavy metal music very well. Anyways, the next track is a song called "Rock Forever," and it kind of is kind of paired up with another track, the track after that called "Without a Trace." Now, "Rock Forever" is more of a hard rock song, and lyrically, it's kind of a love letter to heavy metal. It's that kind of song. It actually has a very nice driving bass to it and a very simple guitar riff, but it's also a fun guitar riff. And you got some crazy guitar licks throughout the verses, and I think it's a cool rock and rolly kind of hard rock song, and it also has a rock and rolly guitar solo in it. And the vocals are more screamy; they're in a higher register here, and it's a fun song, I have to say. Without a Trace, kind of the, I guess, sister song of Rock Forever. It's also a hard rocker, and this one also almost has like glam metal vibes to it. It actually starts out with a very cool drum beat, and then you got some I guess like light metal sounding guitar chords, and you got some ooh yes and stuff vocals wise. Um, in the pre-chorus, there's actually a quite cool rocking riff, and it reminds me a little bit of late 70s hard rock. Um, this is also a fun and light-hearted song, and the vocals in this song also are in a higher register, but you got more of that Christopher Michael madness, I think, just lurking beneath the surface in Without a Trace than in Rock Forever. So, uh, Christopher Michael had this to say about Without a Trace. He says, looking back, I would have discarded Without a Trace for sure. At the time, I really pushed for that song to be included, and at this time, let me apologize to all the little masters. My bad. So, Christopher Michael doesn't really like Without a Trace today. Uh, about Rock Forever, he has this to say. Joe Sims used to refer to Rock Forever as heavy metal bubblegum number 5 because it was the fifth track, because originally um, the introduction, Prophecy, was its own track. Like on this version, it is the fourth track because Prophecy and Golgotha are on one track, but originally it was the fifth track. Okay, anyways, so Joe Sims used to refer to Rock Forever as Heavy Metal Bubblegum number 5 because it was the fifth track. I felt both tracks were in the style of Motley Crue. Brian and I really liked the crew. Brian is the drummer. And you know what? Maybe these songs are a little bit out of place on this otherwise dark sounding album, but you know what? When I listened to this album in preparing for the video and revisiting the album, I like the songs. I don't think they're bad. They're fun, hard rockers. Yeah, and they're more like lighthearted, more like in the vein of, Motley Crue and so on and so forth, a little bit glam metal oriented, but they're still fun songs. And I'm actually glad that they included them on the album. I don't think they're bad. Now, uh, regarding the album in general, Christopher Michael says that when we recorded this in March of 1987 for Azra International Records, we were throwing a lot of ideas against the wall to see what would stick. We looked at the record contract as a stepping stone. That is why we chose to put various songs with different feels and vocal styles to show our versatility. Vocally, I can safely say that I was all over the place. I was experimenting. He also says about Joe Sims' style, he says, it is my belief that Joe Sims' musical style resembles Tony Iommi the most, followed by Iron Maiden, then Metallica. We were also influenced by Kiss, Motley Crue, and King Diamond. Maybe we should have worn grease paint and spit blood. Joe and I would never have picked up guitars if it were not for Kiss. Kiss was my first concert when I was only 14 years old, changed my life and put myself on a path of rock and roll debauchery. So clearly they were trying different things on this album. And that is why you got like some glam sounding songs in the middle of this darker album. And you got different like singing styles by Christopher Michaels. And you know what? It's really cool to hear that they were inspired by Kiss and Metallica and Black Sabbath and so on and so forth. So awesome stuff. Now, the fifth track on this version is Crusades. I think that's a really uh, great song, actually. It has a nice, solid driving bass, and you have a lot of little flourishes, details in the bass playing. Check it out. It's actually fun to listen to it and try to, identify all those fun little bass details. It's a very solid song rhythmically, and you got slightly dissonant chords, and that again adds intensity. You got some really cool lead guitar work in this song as well. You got some licks. You got a short but explosive solo. And then you have a very simple but very effective, in my opinion, kind of twin guitar harmony thing going on. And it's all in the bridge. So it's another great song. The vocals, now we're back to the kind of mid low um, shall we say, register, Christopher Michael madness singing style. But there's also a section that is transposed actually, and he switches into a more mid-range, uh, more melodic, still kind of gruff singing style. And this is just an intense and solid song. It's a really, really good song. And Christopher Michael had this to say about Crusades. Much like the sound of Crusades, which has always been my favorite cut of the Blessing, so Blessing in the Skies. The bass is powerful and the lyrics are meaningful. And again, I think that Christopher Michael's singing style, now that I get it, supports the lyrics very, very well. Okay, next, the sixth track on this one is Demon Machine. Uh, this is kind of a cold open song that starts with some cool tapping lead guitar work. Um, it's a song that's kind of sneaky and it's kind of disturbing and unsettling in its own way. You got some nice dynamics between uh, punchy and the creaky in terms of vibes. And that's what they're going for, I think, deliberately in this song. And you have some nice little kind of galloping sections as well, just before the solo. And you got another just crazy blistering solo. It's another very intense song. Um, in this song, the vocals are kind of snarly and they're kind of goblin-y in the good way. And they're also kind of creepy. And again, it fits with the vibe of the song. Um, but this kind of creepy, kind of goblin-y singing style, it is kind of juxtaposed with screams and with bellows. Um, it's a sneaky, creepy, intense song, and it's awesome. I really like Demon Machine. It's followed by a track called The Reaper. That's actually a song with a very, very, very melodic opening. And you have a really, really nice kind of lead guitar figure, very melodic as well. It's more of a mid-tempo song. Got some kind of Maiden-esque guitar melodies between the choruses and the verses. And I think this is a standout track, not because it's better than the other tracks. They're all good, but it's standout because there's a lot of focus on melody rather than on intensity. You got some, yeah, pardon my French, you got some fucking amazing drum fills in this song, I have to say. The vocals are like clean in the verses, and then you got Christopher Michael madness just lurking beneath the surface in the clean vocals. Um, so again, I get the vocals, and I really like the vocals. It's a more of a melodic song, like I said. It's more straightforward, but it's still a fucking awesome song, I have to say. So that's The Reaper. The next track is a song called Slave to the Blade. Uh, Interestingly enough, in the verse, There's kind of an interesting mix of kind of like a disco drum beat and a shuffle drum beat. It works, and this is kind of a build-up breakdown song. So it builds up and breaks down, builds up and breaks down. There's some really good bass work in the bridge, and the bridge is actually very, very interesting, I have to say. The vocals in this song, that's Christopher Michael at his finest, totally demented, off with his head, not Michael's head, Christopher's Michael's head, but it's off with his head insanity. And I get it. It's perfect for a song called Slave to the Blade. Um, it's a song that it kind of never really gets going, but I think that's by design. It's because of this built down, build up and break down structure. So it's kind of cyclical. So it never really gets going because of this, but that also makes the song kind of unsettling to listen to. And of course, on top of that, you have the absolutely insane vocals by Christopher Michael. Um, the next track is, I believe, the last song on the original version. You can get, see the artwork again. The original version of Blessing in the Skies. It's a song called The Predator. This starts out with some cool bluesy guitar work with a delay effect, and it's just built around some really, really cool lead guitar work. And some of it is very melodic, and some of it is like bordering on chaos and blistering. And this is just a really, really cool instrumental. And what's really cool about it is that it starts out kind of bluesy, like I said, but then it increases in intensity. You do have Christopher Michael just sneaking in some "The Predator" yells, but other than that, it is instrumental. And now it is story time with Joe Sims, who is going to tell us a little bit about how the Predator ended up on the original version of Blessing in the Skies. Take it away, Joe.
When we signed to do the album with Azra International Records, we had all the songs in mind that we wanted to put on the album. But then D.T. Richards, the president of the company, said that he wanted us to do a bonus song that they could put out as a bonus track on future releases. We really didn't have a song that we were really psyched about doing as a bonus track. So we had this jam that we used to do at the chamber. It was just a jam called The Predator. And we were like, okay, let's button up this song and just do an instrumental. Just a jam. And it actually turned out to be a really viable instrumental. But what ended up happening was it ended up on the album itself. It wasn't a bonus track. He threw it on the last song on side B. But there's a part in that song. See, we were spending quite a bit of money in the studio. And you know, as with the clock ticking is the more money you spend. So you want to nail all your stuff first, second try. Well, 2 minutes and 20 seconds into the song, there's a pop and a pause. I was late. It went pop and I hit the chord. So I'm like, well, I want to save the take. So I did the same thing on 3 additional ones. And then I did it again. So it was kind of a happy mistake. It actually sounds really cool. But it started off as a mistake that I just went with and figured, okay, well, if I do it the same way all 4 times, it'll seem like I meant to do it. So if you listen to that song, 220, you'll hear where I come in late.
How about that, huh? I told you all of this was worth waiting for. Did I tell you that? I don't know, but it was worth waiting for. Anyways, uh, on this version here, you have 3 bonus tracks, and why not talk about them? So, the first bonus track is a live track called Heretical Valor. The drumming just sounds so solid on this live version. It's incredible. You got a guitar tone that's a little bit ethereal and doomy sounding. You got a very, very, very catchy chorus as well. But I have to say that my favorite part of this song, that's the drumming, just because it's so, so solid. Christopher Michael had this to say about this version. Heretical Valor was recorded live in Cleveland, Ohio. No overdubs. And that's why the drumming, I mean, just makes the drumming even better, in my opinion. Excellent, excellent stuff there. The next track is a song called Snake Charmer. And this is interesting because this is a slow song. It's quite doomy, it's quite atmospheric. And I would say it kind of evolves around a driving, exotic, maybe kind of Middle Eastern, maybe uh, South Asian sounding kind of bass line. And you have a really, really intense guitar solo. The vocals on this one are clean, but kind of chanty, and that kind of fits this kind of slow and doomy, kind of atmospheric in a way track as well. Slave Charmer, no, Snake Charmer. There you go. And the last track, the last bonus track as well, is called The Power. That's another doomy song with a cool driving bass as well. You got some kind of Jimi Hendrix inspired work in the solos here, which I think is cool. And the vocals, all out Christopher Michael madness. So, what are my overall impressions of this album, having revisited it and having reassessed it, having listened to it a lot of times now? Well, I actually quite like the production now. I think what maybe was a little bit off-putting to me back in the day was that it was kind of raw sounding, but now this same rawness actually works extremely well for me because it adds to the intensity. Um, the production is a little bit thin on the drums and the guitars, but that brings the bass right to the center. So I actually quite like this production now. And it's also old school and there's a certain charm to it. I think the drumming is just excellent on this album. It's just super dynamic. And Christopher Michael has a lot of praise for the drummer, Brian Henderson, here. This is what he has to say. Props to Brian Crash Henderson. He broke a lot of cymbals and wrecked a lot of cars. Brian is a very powerful and creative drummer who had a lot of input on our sound. We all had a ton of fun together. And yes, the drumming is, I think, absolutely dynamic and interesting. And it's a very vital and important feature or component, I think, to this album. And along with my uh, newfound appreciation of Christopher Michael's vocals, the drumming was also an important factor in me kind of turning around and changing my mind on this absolutely awesome album. Um, I think the guitar work is really intense. A lot of the solos are blistering, they are intense, they kind of border on chaos, but in a good way because it fits the intensity of the album very well, I think. The vocals, like I said, I get the vocals now. I get what Christopher Michael was going for. I appreciate the vocals now. I absolutely love how demented and insane they sound, but they're also very expressive and they do contribute to the overall vibes and the artistic expression of the songs. Um, I still compare them to the guy from Oz, um, but I think now that Christopher Michael is up there with the guy from Oz. I also get King Diamond vibes from his vocals. I mean, not the high-pitched singing and the operatic style of King Diamond, but the more theatrical and expressive side to King Diamond singing. So I really like the vocals now. I mean, Christopher Michael's vocals, they've won me over. And I love when that happens, when there's an album or song or an artist or whatever, a style I don't like, and then something happens and I start to appreciate that. That happens much more often to me, fortunately, than the other way around. If there's an album or a song or an artist I used to like, and then suddenly for some reason I don't like him anymore. I love when it happens that I turn around and I appreciate an album I didn't like. And that's what happened with this one. I've made a complete 180 on this album. It's a great gem of a heavy metal album. It really is. It's worth checking out if you like your 80s heavy metal. I get the vocals now, I get the raw production. I think it's perfect for this album, and I think the vocals, the raw production, the chaos that lurks underneath everything, uh, characterize all of that stuff characterizes the intensity of this album. And I also like how you got some hard rocky songs and some glam metal esque songs. You have some more melodic songs, and some slow songs, and some fast songs. This is a great album. Now, Axemaster, they have a new album on the way called Of Beasts and Plagues. And like I said, the music in the introduction is a snippet of a song from this album. And you'll hear some more snippets of some other songs from this album in a minute in the outro of this video. Um, I have actually heard the entire album. I've been lucky enough to be allowed to listen to the whole thing, and it's great. You have something to look forward to. There will be a fundraiser by the label, and I will keep you updated on all that stuff. Definitely uh, go and check out Axemaster, check out Blessing in Disguise, check out some of the albums I'll talk about later on. And if all of this is your jam, keep an eye out on news regarding the new album. Like I said, there will be a fundraiser on the label that will release the new album. And that way you can support and contribute to the album being released, a little bit like Blaze Bailey does. And I think that's so cool because as a fan, you get to support the artists directly. So I'll keep you guys up to date on the whole new album thing, and I'll return to it in subsequent videos. Again, for now, check out Blessing in Disguise. If, like me, you didn't like it earlier because of the vocals or whatever, give it another chance. Maybe you'll be won over like I was. It's an excellent heavy metal album. It's a real gem. Maybe pick up this version, pick up if you can find it, the Pure Steel reissue, or if you can find it, the original. It's a great album. Like I said, I've made a complete 180 on this. I think it's a great album. It's an absolute gem. Yes, I'll be back in the next video where I will talk about this album here, Overture to Madness, the second album, a much more recent album. For now, thanks for watching, and thanks to Christopher Michael and Joe Sims for making this video even more special with all these cool features just for you guys. Thanks for watching.
The soul is crushing power, feeding hearts unseen. Ears that grind, teeth that feed, tearing at the meat, pulling deep within.